Welcome to the OneSong podcast, the only podcast you need to hear.
This week on the show, we welcome Cedar Rapids prog metal band, Levianthans.
Welcome to the OneSong podcast, the only podcast reporting on music in the Cedar Rapids area. I'm Corey Munson. I, along with Gabe Reisner, welcome you. A little bit about myself. I'm a newspaper editor and reporter, and have also played in bands around the area for almost 20 years now.
My name is Gabe Reisner. By day, I am a mild-mannered mental health worker, and by night, I'm part of the project Hunter Dumped Us Here, which brings experimental and emotional rock and pop to the table. When Corey approached me about this podcast, I thought it was a great idea because I think we need something that keeps people up to date with what's going on in the Cedar Rapids music scene.
So with that in mind, let's get going with this thing. This week, in the news, Cedar Rapids-based band Well Aren't You Precious was recently featured on the punk webzine DyingScene.com. The site shared Precious's new song, Staring at Gold, off the band's yet-to-be-titled EP, slated for release later this year.
It was also announced this week that vocalist Alex Brobston is leaving the hardcore band from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Courage at Sea. The band announced his departure on its Facebook page on January 25th, saying, "Sad day in the Courage at Sea camp. Alex is no longer our vocalist. We wish him the best in his future endeavors." Alex's last show with the band will be Saturday, February 7th at Groundswell in Cedar Rapids. The band is also auditioning new would-be vocalists, so get on it if you like to scream.
Also on February 7th is the CD Unreleased Party at Otis's Tailgaters in Cedar Rapids. This odd-titled show also has a strange history. Originally planned as a CD release party for the new record from Levianthans, the band had to back out, which left an opening filled by 4 other acts: Milk Duct Tape, Friendly Fire On, Signals, and Levianthans. The show starts at 9 p.m. and there is no cover. This week in studio, we're welcoming the guys from Levianthans.
How's it going?
Hey.
We're going to listen to their song, Catalyst, right now.
that was the heaviest thing that has ever been written. Do you guys want to tell us a little bit about the band, first of all, and then also about how that song came into existence and what it means?
Yeah, so Jeff here. Basically about a year ago, I came back from Cedar Falls, moved back in town here to Cedar Rapids, met up with Jacob, and we had jammed out one or two things. But I had 3 or 4 years worth of little recorded tidbits and whatnot, and we decided let's at least get this wrapped up. So we sat in his basements for basically locked ourselves in for 3 months and turned out the album. This one here was actually one I actually hadn't had as a demo written. Actually, Jacob kind of came to me and he's like, "Oh, I got this idea that I was playing around with," and then I took it in.
Jammed that one out together. More written kind of as a band instead of a lot of the EP was mostly written by Jeff with some input from me and Dylan, but that song was kind of more all of us wrote together, and I think we like how it turned out. So.
Yeah, it's why it's a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Some of those, the ones that are written as a full band, those are usually some of the best ones that come out of stuff.
Yes.
What would you guys list as some of your influences, especially on the newer work, the stuff you're developing as a band?
First and foremost would be Coheed and Cambria, Macedon, The Sword,
Russian Circles,
Good band.
Iron Maiden. That's the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Katy Perry.
Katy Perry,
So a lot of under the grid
Kesha.
indie artists that no one's heard of. I see.
Yeah,
Pretty
precisely.
much. They're really just that nasty, dirty, grungy rock where there's 5 people at the shows.
That definitely describes Kesha.
If you're really familiar with Coheed's work, you can hear it all over Sonder, our first EP that we released last summer. You can hear it just all over the place.
I think the new stuff is going to be a little darker, maybe.
Conceptually,
a little heavier,
musically,
but
it's definitely really Mastodon and Russian Circles.
Yeah, kind of more that way, but it's still kind of a mixture of all the artists we like.
And then after that, we put our own little touches and tidbits on it as well. Yeah. Brings it all together.
Mm-hmm. Dylan has a tambourine solo.
Yes.
Yeah,
now,
a lot of electric triangle.
Good. Is Sonder, is that a concept EP?
It is a concept EP. Yeah.
What is the story behind Story of Sonder?
It's actually based on a dream, well, more of a nightmare, really, but a nightmare I had, back in, 7th grade or something like that. And I actually, had it the week that we were assigned, a horror story assignment. So I wrote down the whole story, the day after it happened. So it was pretty cool. But basically, kind of like Dante's Inferno, in a way, is kind of what's going on in the story of Sonder. Basically, our main character, we didn't give names because it's just the guy,
We kept it kind of vague, too. Open to interpretation, a lot of it. But
that's how you make a good concept. Just leave it as vague as possible and let everyone else make the details.
Yeah.
But basically, a guy, just gone through a bad period in his life, and he's just wandering about and finds kind of a building that he walks into, kind of a portal kind of thing. But he ends up on the top of this big old kind of warehouse complex that's, many, many stories high with kind of an open center. And as he's going down the building, he's seeing various people, beings kind of wrapped up in bandages and stuff and being tortured and stuff like that. But he just kind of proceeds on, disconnecting and descending.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Oh! But, continues down and finds the girl who could be what he loves or what have you. And she's being crucified on a pentagram or, pentagon-shaped rock by what you could say is the devil, dark side, or what have you. But he's basically taken down by these demons, and they graft wings onto him, is what happens. And in the end, he manages to free the girl, and as he's flying up, the top of the building is closing shut. He realizes that the only way that he can save the ghost by throwing her out and letting him fall, basically. So, dark, Dante's Inferno, basically. Is basically the concept there. So
that's way more intense than I ever realized.
I don't think we've ever really...
No, we've never actually, I've never gone out and said what, the concept is.
At some point, there is a squid.
At some point, there's a squid.
That's all that matters.
But, yeah, it could be an analogy for various things, like going through a dark period in your life, or, surviving a suicide attempt and moving on from that is always how I kind of equated it when I wrote it, so... I really like it. And Sonder was actually a word I got from this website called the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, which is this guy just goes and makes up words, basically, and comes up with definitions. And Sonder was basically kind of looking out with everyone in your life and everyone else kind of around you and realizing that everyone else has a story just as deep and vivid and detailed as your own.
And like to them, you're just another passerby.
Yeah, to them, you're just a passerby. You're an extra in a movie. But, what you don't realize, like when you watch a movie, it's like, there's an extra back there, but they have a whole life on their own. They got their own details, their own relationships, their own conflicts, stuff like that. And Sonder is the realization of that. So
That's
it
awesome.
was kind of a cool word that I discovered. I'm like, that kind of applies to what's going on in my life right now. Throw that in there.
You mentioned before, when we were talking before the interview, about some producer work. You said you've been working with Tim King. He remastered one of your songs. What are some of the collaborations you guys are working on right now?
Well, I guess probably the one we're pretty excited about is what we just did with Tim, and he kind of took that song Catalyst, the one you just heard, is his remaster of it, and he did a really, really good job on it. And I think we've been kind of looking for people for our next album to work with, and we'll probably still record it all ourselves, but just have someone mix and master it kind of helps a lot.
We did a lot of tweaks on there that we couldn't have done ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of heard after the guitar solo in Catalyst, there's a real haunting sound afterwards, and that wasn't on the original album.
Right.
It just sounds so much better and fits kind of conceptually a lot better, so.
And I think, anyway, it's like, it just added more punch and clarity to everything, and so I think hopefully we'll, have a sound close to that with our new stuff, but it'll be a long time coming, but
Yeah, got some work ahead of us.
Very cool.
Name for me, if you were to play a dream show, if you were the openers, what would the 4 bands or artists that you would hope?
we should each name one.
I'm going to throw Coheed out there, so that's already there. Coheed, Cambria.
Okay.
Oh my god. They have our CD. They have our CD and our press.
It's in the works.
How about you, Dylan? Who would you have for the second band after you guys?
I would probably say Mastodon. I'm going to go with them again. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh man! So you took the good ones.
Megan Trainor.
I'll just add the sword to that list. Okay. That's kind of
basically our favorite band.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
I think we
be
should
our
throw
favorite
Russian
band?
Circles in there too. Obviously.
Yeah, if we're doing 4.
Okay.
If we're going to
that'd be a long show.
Dude, let everyone do full hour and a half sets.
Be like,
Dude.
no, like a 3-day show. Like,
Let's have Woodstock, but just with all those guys, just each night.
That would be fantastic.
it'd probably be the dream
That would
show
be
right
pretty
now.
cool.
I would pay to see that show.
I would be done. That would just be it. There's no higher point I could reach in my life.
So until then, what do you guys have coming up over the next month or so? Do you have any shows you'd like to plug, or?
February 7th, we'll be playing the
Tailgaters
for the CD unreleased show. Divinion unfortunately had to drop for their CD release show, so we're going in and we're going to rock Tailgaters with Signals, Friendly Fire On, and Milk Duct Tape. Excellent band from Iowa City, real fuzzy. I love those guys.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a good show.
I think for the most part, though, we're probably going to take some time over the next few months to... We got a handful of songs right now that we're kind of going to put some lyrics on and finish up and write a few others as well.
A lot of new stuff.
Going to start focusing mostly on our new album. That'll probably be the bulk of it.
We're actually a lot closer than we think to be.
That's true. Yeah, it probably
we wrote out
done
everything we
already.
had written except for vocal wise, and we were like, yeah, we got at least an album, if not a little more than an album worth of material to shoot out. So
we got it mostly written, I think.
good stuff.
Well, it sounds like 2015 is going to be great for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. This is the OneSong Podcast. We'll be right back.
Now, I bet everybody out there is dying to know what we've been listening to this week. I personally have been listening to the album Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die by Panic at the Disco, the Head and the Heart's self-titled album, and a little bit of Pink Print by Nicki Minaj, as ashamed as I am to admit it.
Wow, Nicki Minaj. Bold move. I have been focused mostly on Ella Henderson's debut record, Chapter 1. She's a British singer, a little bit sort of like a dancey version of Adele. It's just fun. I've just kind of been enjoying some lighter British pop for a while.
Sometimes you just have to do that. One thing I've been noticing about Panic at the Disco's new album is that it's a lot more pop and electronic based than their other stuff, and I've really been enjoying it. It's quite the driving music.
And that's it for this week's edition of the OneSong Podcast. As always, thank you for listening. The OneSong Podcast is written, recorded, and produced by Gabe Reasoner and myself. Keep in touch with us online at Facebook or by sending us an email at onesongpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.